Hey there, Twins fans, and today probably movie fans and movie buffs and maybe some critics and hopefully people that want to watch some movies this weekend. My name is Seth Stoes of Twins Daily and twinsdaily.com. Let's get right into it here. We've got our guest for today's Twins Spotlight. And about a year ago, I had the opportunity to chat with Thomas Nicholas, actor, director, producer, musician, and get to know him a little bit. He was doing an event in Minnesota a couple nights or a weekend, and we had the opportunity to kind of touch base. And he at that time was coming out with another movie, so I thought, you know what, let's check in a year later and see how he's doing and talk about the movie. But just as a little bit of background, again, we had that article here. It was actually 13 months ago. In which we kind of just got to know him. And I know a lot of you got the opportunity to meet him while he was in Minnesota. As a reminder, I mean, I think you first saw him probably in Rookie of the Year, the American Pie movies. I personally really liked how he did in Walt Disney, or as Walt Disney in that movie. And I don't know, I liked it. Living Among Us, I think, is absolutely fantastic. And of course, musician. I had no idea when I talked to him last year that he was quite the musician with, I believe, 7 albums out. So, but what we're here a lot to talk about is his new movie, and that's Adverse. It's now available in several locations. I mean, the cast is amazing. I watched it the other night, truly enjoyed it. It's kind of talked about as a suspense, but I mean, it's a great drama, family. I mean, I wouldn't watch it with the younger kids probably, but there's a good family story to it, and a little bit of physicality. So let's, with that as the way too long background, I want to bring in our guest tonight, and that is Thomas Nicholas. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Seth?
I'm doing well. Well, I want to just start by, how's the last year been? Right before we talked in February, you were on your way to, I think, Portugal, for a few different things, and then everything's changed. So how has the last year been for you?
The last year has been pretty crazy. Yeah, when I was in Minnesota for those events, I was heading to Portugal to premiere Adverse at the Fantas Porto Film Festival and then do a tour. I played a show there and then did a tour around the UK, did an event there, went home, went to Vegas, and then the whole entire world shut down. I guess in some ways it's been kind of a really weird year for all of us. On the work front, it's been good. Got to keep pushing the entertainment forward. So I was able to, my business partner and I, Brian A. Metcalf, were able to bring on Lionsgate. They picked up Adverse, and so cut to a year later, they finally released it into theaters, and now it's out on streaming and DVD. And my son booked an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So he's 9. And we went to the Dominican Republic, September, October, November. So during COVID safety, 3 COVID tests a week. And then I've also been working on my 7th album, and I just released I think it's the 6th single, and the 7th single comes out on 4/20, bro.
Wow. That's awesome. You mentioned your son. I believe you had a daughter that was just starting preschool a year ago. I mean, family doing well, obviously booking. I'm a big M. Night Shyamalan fan, but that's a big deal. But how is the family? Everyone stay pretty healthy?
Yeah, everyone's healthy. I think we're just trying to stay sane in this sort of lockdown scenario. The filming break was a good moment. I feel very blessed to have had that break and that excursion with my son. My wife and daughter stayed home. And she's doing well though on the creation front. She's writing songs for our kids project, The Robot Kid. So that's been pretty fun. And yeah, I mean, as far as the M. Night thing, it's a huge deal. Universal is releasing it to theaters July 23rd, and they bought the first commercial space during the Super Bowl. So 100 million people have already seen my kid's face. It's crazy.
Unreal. That's fantastic. Now, first, I want to remind anyone watching on the Twins Daily Facebook, YouTube, Twitter pages, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to ask them, and we'll definitely get to them. But first, I just got to say, from David Young's one of our Twins Daily writers, absolute legend. So thanks, David, for watching. No, I
Thanks,
did.
Dave.
Yeah, before we jump back into talking a little bit about Adverse, I happen to be just streaming. I was a big fan of Who's the Boss back in the day, and I'm watching it, and all of a sudden I know who is that kid? I think that was your first role. How old were you, and how does that compare to how old your son is?
It's around the same, like, because I started, I think that was like 1988. I think I was 7. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Nolan, my son, Nolan River, he was 7 during his first job, which was also television.
Okay.
And what's really weird is, essentially, this is kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm just like the weirdo that like trips out on, sliding doors, or the sort of comparison. So part of me for getting weird. But my first job was in Who's the Boss. I played a young Tony Danza in a flashback moment. My son's first job was as Zoe Deschanel and Jake Johnson's flash forward son on the final episode of New Girl. I was in the
Oh
100th
wow.
episode of Who's the Boss. He was in the show finale of New Girl. So both sort of milestone episodes. One a flashback, the other a flash forward. Kind of trippy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think about weird stuff like that, which makes me a weirdo, but I'm okay with being a weirdo.
Weird is good. I like weird. So let's jump into it. You mentioned Brian A. Metcalf is the producer writer for Adverse. I believe he was also the same role within that Living Among Us movie from, I believe, 4 years ago. Which, again, like I said, I don't know how it did, but I enjoyed it. Was there kind of a relationship there? And obviously, he's done a lot of good things over his career as well. Is that kind of the basis or the starting point for where this movie began?
Yeah, Adverse is oh my goodness. Brian and I have known each other for a long time now. And he's probably the person that I've worked with the most over the course of my career. Adverse is the 1, 2, 3, the 4th feature that we worked on, though I met him way back in the day in 2002. He came on to help me on my directorial debut, a film that I made with my brother. He was the storyboard artist and did some visual effects work. And then cut to, a few years later, I did a favor for him. And then we ended up producing our first feature together that came out in 2009, also with Lionsgate. So, our relationship as business partners has developed over the course of nearly 20 years. So we have kind of a shorthand of how we talk. And it was weird when I got Adverse, or when he wrote Adverse, I read it and I was like, man, this script is amazing. Like, it's your best work. Like, the role of Ethan is awesome. He goes, well, I don't know. The role of Ethan is what I've got in mind for it. It might be a little bit beyond your scope. Like, maybe there's another role in there you could play. And I'm like, no way, man, you got to let me play this role. So we started like doing work sessions. He wasn't going to tell me yes, but he wouldn't also tell me no. So we developed the character to the point where it didn't look or sound, and I didn't move like me. And then he was finally happy, and he was like, okay, you can play the role.
So don't be yourself, act or something like that.
Well, he had like a different thing in mind for the character, something, really outlandish. I mean, he was writing it off of his own history with an ex-girlfriend that got involved with the wrong crowd and unfortunately became a drug addict herself. And then they had to part ways. And so he changed it and made it like a brother-sister instead of a boyfriend-girlfriend. And that's the relationship, which is the cornerstone of the movie, between Ethan and Mia, the brother and sister.
Which I think is just, I mean, it's great because it develops. You don't originally think that it's a brother-sister. You think it's like a father-daughter, something like that. Not to age you or anything, but,
That's I mean, right. I'm old. It's fine. I get it.
Well, I'm older. So, but I mean, I really enjoyed that relationship, and it's amazing how well that came together over the course of the film, with the other relationships that kind of come into it. But that it was almost a father-daughter type of a relationship. And I mean, I think you have to be real proud of how that worked. And that actress was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's Kelly Arjun, our third producing partner. So Kelly Arjun, we worked with her on a TV pilot called Strange Ones that never ended up. It hasn't gotten picked up, so we're kind of revamping that one because it's still a cool concept. So we'll revisit that later. But she came on to play Mia, and then she started just becoming an invaluable asset to the production. So much so that we offered her the role of associate producer. She took on some responsibilities, but then when Brian and I were in front of the camera together, she started taking on more responsibilities to the point where in post-production she was invaluable, and we upgraded her, and we're like, hey, we want to make you, our third business partner and be a producer on the film. So, three heads are better than two, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now we do have another comment here, and this one, Josie, should you not be in school? This is my daughter. You're the guy from American Pie movies. First of all, Josie, you should not be watching that yet, or at least we should be watching together. But secondly, thanks for watching, darling.
Oh, that's amazing.
Speaking of father-daughter relationships, right? I wanted to talk to you before jumping into the rest of some of the cast, because I think the cast should excite people. But this, I mean, you were the lead. You were in pretty much every scene. You played a variety of emotions. I again don't want to give away too much. I encourage everyone to go watch it. I know it's on Amazon and other streaming areas, so be sure to do that. But it was definitely different for you. So what was the challenge? What was the biggest challenge of turning yourself into that person, into that role, and finding those various emotions?
The challenge always is not just the development, but that's where a lot of the work is done in the preparation, the character preparation, building the backstory, filling in the gaps of, what is not in the script, and deciding what those details will be and how they change and shape the character. Then there's just the idea for me, it was the first time that I was changing so much of myself. It was making sure that remained consistent. We shot it 22 days, but not in a row. It was more like how Christopher Nolan, if you're aware, shot the first movie Memento with Guy Ritchie. Guy Pearce, sorry. Christopher Nolan, Guy Ritchie, naming two directors that have not worked together. Guy Pearce on Memento with Christopher Nolan, they were shooting it only on the weekends. And so that movie, it made sense because the movie's kind of confusing and backwards. But still, even still, Guy Pearce's performance is consistent. And so that's the hardest thing when you're doing it that far out of context, and then also having all those changes. So that was a big challenge for me. There was also a challenge for how I was approaching the technique, which I know this is going to make me sound bougie, but I grew up studying one style of method acting, which is sort of what they call the basis of it, which is Stanislavski. And then there's a lot of offshoots of that, of other students that have become other techniques. And there's the other main one is Meisner. So I was a Stanislavski kid, and Brian had studied Meisner and some even hybrid stuff for the last 5-6 years. So in the pre-production, he basically talked me into trying some new techniques and trying the hybrid, which ironically is what William H. Macy uses. And so I realized, having worked with William H. Macy, I should have asked him more questions. There's apparently a name for the hybrid, which is called oh my gosh, now I'm gonna forget the name of the hybrid. There's a name for it. It's practical aesthetics. And ironically, practical aesthetics is when you're focusing on the props that you're using in conjunction with all the techniques and substitution and all that stuff. And I think it's kind of funny. I kind of always had a prop with me. It was called a tire iron. So I had like, it was the perfect role to try out a new technique, of practical aesthetics when I had this prop that I could really focus on that became an extension of my character and his own mental illness and anger issues.
Yeah, I sat there watching it, and my first thought was that the board game Clue might need a new realm, and it would be Thomas Nicholas with the tire iron pretty much anywhere. So something to
I
consider.
resemble that remark.
Yeah, right. So I did want to talk about the cast. I mean, Mickey Rourke is obviously, he's done so much. Penelope Miller's done a million things. I think Lou Diamond Phillips is in pretty much everything the last few years. He's fantastic. Sean Astin's in the movie, obviously going back to Goonies. Maybe you've known him for a while. Brian A. Metcalf, obviously with a small but pretty big role in this movie. And I've always been an Andrew Keegan fan. I think going back to Seventh Heaven and 10 Things I Hate About You and all of that. So, I mean, just talk about the cast, but also, in your role as producer, I mean, you're kind of leading the way along with Brian. And what is that like to kind of step back and be like, look at this cast?
Well, you stopped just shy of, I think, what would be the most important cast member on your YouTube channel. Luke Edwards.
Oh, right.
Who, of course, was in Little Big League.
Didn't even put it together.
Right. Well, this is just goes to show, talk about like changing the way that you look in your persona. Luke does a fantastic job in Adverse, playing Kyle, who's sort of the cohort of Andrew Keegan's character, Jan.
Right.
And he's got like that great stutter that he is, talking with that kind of borders on, a bit comical, but he plays it so well and so diabolical and almost, you almost feel like sorry for Kyle, even though he's such a diabolical character. And he actually, in the Variety film review by Joe Layden, he singled out Luke Edwards. So I just thought it was cool. There's a moment in the film where we're in the car and it's like 90s galore, because it's myself, Andrew Keegan, Luke Edwards, and Jake T. Austin all in a car ride together. We're like, what did we do? We like take a time? Is it a DeLorean from the 90s? What happened?
Yeah. Yeah. And didn't have to travel as much as they did in Back to the Future. I didn't even realize that until you said that, but I definitely, that role he was fantastic in that role. So what is it? I mean, obviously it's got to be just a challenge, just like you said, the technique and the acting side of this movie, where again, you're in every scene, but then to be kind of behind the scenes at the same time. I mean, you must have had some long days over those 22 days, and then probably some longer days for a while thereafter.
It's always a process when you're the boss. We'll put up the quotation, when you're the boss or one of the bosses, you have all the responsibility. And it's one of those funny things where I think someone even said to me like a couple weeks ago, I said, "Oh man, I'm still so busy on Adverse right now." They said, "What do you mean? How could you be busy on that film? It's out now." I'm like, the work just keeps going. We started this project in its inception back in 2018, and now it's 2021, and it's not letting up on my schedule. But that's sort of the fun thing about being a producer, is that as an actor, you kind of come in, you do this performance, and then you wait a long time to see the film, and then you have that moment, and then that's it. There's just a lot of downtime in between. And as a producer, there really is no downtime. And I like staying busy. But again, as an actor, being on set and having all that downtime, that's kind of how I started playing guitar, to just fill up that, waiting around, that hurry up and wait scenario.
Right. And now you're doing a lot of other things too. And by the way, check down at the bottom of the screen. We have Thomas's Instagram and Twitter links, or the site, but also check out his personal site, but also go to adversethefilm.com to find out where you can stream this or where you can find the movie right now. Like I said, I truly enjoyed it. I've just got a few more questions here, and then we'll let you go, because I think, as always on this show, I say 20 minutes and it goes longer. But So I told you after I watched it the other night that I wanted more. And I mentioned this. I mean, I look at like Better Call Saul as kind of the prequel to Breaking Bad, and I'm like, okay, I want to know more about Mickey Rourke's character, Caden. I want to know more about Ethan, your role, and his relationship with his mom and his sister, and kind of how that developed. And so I'm picturing like either sequels or a made an AMC type of a series, kind of along those lines. And I know that's obviously me. I just wanted more. I wanted to know more about these characters, or you mentioned Luke and Andrew's characters. You know how that relationship was there. Just what goes into that. I mean, is there any thought that you might do something more, or is that kind of a good thing when you get to the end of the movie and you're left wanting more?
I mean, I think anything that we've sort of that we've worked on could always, well, I guess we did a film called The Lost Tree that really couldn't have a sequel. Spoiler alert, I don't survive the ending. So as long as and that was actually a funny thing, because as you know from living among us, our sort of entertaining vampire flick and twist on that, I don't survive that one either. So this is really the first time that Brian A. Metcalf didn't kill my character off.
Maybe that's the progress.
Right, progress. We're moving forward. It only took 20 years for him not to kill my character by the end of the film. So this is maybe the only time we can truly have a sequel. I think sequels are never really planned unless you're like George Lucas and you write episodes 4, 5, and 6, and you have to break it up. But
right.
Like American Pie there was never a plan for an American Pie 2. Same with, even the straight to VHS, A Kid in King Arthur's Court. There was never a plan for a straight to VHS sequel. But sometimes the sequels happen. So look, anything is possible. As far as I know, Lionsgate hasn't called quite yet for us to do a sequel.
Okay. Well, and the other one is your relationship with Chloe. I think that would be kind of fun to follow where that progresses. But but also you mentioned your character's issues, kind of the mental issues and things like that. I think it'd be interesting to see how he progresses over time with that. And like I said, for me, I think that's a great thing to kind of have all these, like, I want more. I want to see, I care about these characters and stuff like that. So tell me, what's next? What are you working on now? I mean, you said you're working on a million things. Now you're balancing your son's career. I know your wife is incredibly busy as well. So, kind of what's next for you?
Well, during the course of this year, as I mentioned, I'm working on my 7th album. I've got a Patreon account as well. It's the same thing, Tin Band. So
Okay.
I've been doing a live stream on YouTube every Sunday at noon Pacific Standard Time. So I am doing Sunday Fun Day episode number 46 in a couple of days, which basically means that I started right around the time of lockdown, maybe a month later, because we're at the year mark, but I'm not quite at the year mark of my live streams. So that's been fun. That's been a fun outlet, considering that I can't tour right now. To kind of get my half hour of playing live music with a live audience, even though I can't see them.
Right.
And then I also have another Patreon account for The Robot Kid, which is my music for children that I'm working on with my kids. And we're basically making music that kids will love that won't annoy parents.
Okay.
And we.
So you're not responsible for Baby Shark, right?
No.
Okay.
I mean, one can only hope to write something that catchy, but also one can also hope to never write something that catchy, right?
Yeah.
We have Erin Duggins, who's an animator who's in New Jersey. She's working on the first cartoon, and I'm talking to some of my other friends that have worked on, I can't really say what basically like mainstream cartoons and feature cartoons that we've all seen and heard of. I'm talking to some of my friends that worked on those about possibly getting involved on the animation front of the Robot Kid. So there could be some big things coming. I don't really know. Always trying to, just move the ball forward. And then what else? I mean, my wife's been doing some live streaming. I've been her cameraman.
Okay.
So for DJ sets, I've been setting up, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 camera shoots of her live streams.
Wow.
So that's been fun. I've only done that a few times. And then, I don't know really when the world's going back online. I think President Biden just said, by July 4th, we should all be good to gather, and everyone that wants it will have their vaccine. So I'm looking forward to, getting back to what we once knew as life and existence. Yeah. Whatever the new normal is going to be, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, and for those Twins fans listening, I know Governor Walz today announced that the Twins will be able to have 10,000 in the stands by opening day in 3 weeks. So that's 27% of capacity. I think restaurants jumped up to 75%. Vaccine numbers continue to roll up. So I hope we can get there, like you said, by July. So it's been crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think for me, the sanity comes for me in creating entertainment, and I hope that the entertainment that I am providing for those that are paying attention, that it provides some escape for them. So that's kind of like the symbiotic relationship that I have with anyone who's paying attention to what I'm doing.
Well, and you've been creating content for a long time. We talked about Who's the Boss, 1988. It's been a while, so you've been creating that for a long time, and I mean, like I said, I've enjoyed a lot of it. We'll probably have to check out more of it, but I do want to say thank you so much. Again, people, check out Adverse the film if you've got a chance. Maybe don't watch it with the little kids, but
definitely don't watch it with the little kids. It's rated R, man.
Yeah, right. So if you get a chance, take a look at that. But again, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy. I imagine you're just swamped right now talking about this, but hopefully you're getting a lot of good feedback on the film, and continued success to you, your son, your wife, and your daughter. I'm sure she's probably a little bit young yet, but who knows?
Hey, like I said, she's already writing songs for the Robot Kid. Like, she's written 3 tunes. I'll hear her singing, and it's not just like a little ditty. I mean, it's like a full melody and lyrics and a chorus hook. And I'm like, get in here, let's record it.
And she's 4, right?
Yeah, she'll be 5 in April, but it's amazing. She has just a really good creative instincts.
It's a good gift, and it's obviously probably some pretty good genetics and all of that put together. So again, thank you so much, Thomas. I appreciate that. Maybe we'll catch up in a year and find out where life is taking you again.
Sounds good, Seth. Thank you so much for having me on your show, on your channel. I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you as well. Thank you to everyone for listening, for the comments that came in, even from my daughter, who should be at school right now. Get in your classroom, even if it's online. And this will be up on the Twins Daily podcast shortly. And thanks again for listening. And if you missed last night's show, I talked to 3 Twins wives about the baseball journey that they've undertaken too. So be sure to check that out. Again, check out Thomas Nicholas on Twitter, Instagram, his website, tinicholas.com, adversethefilm.com. Check it out on Amazon. Hey, it's a weekend. Go watch a movie. So again, with that, thanks to everyone for listening. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And of course, go Twins.